morning. Do you need food tracking to be easier? I know I do. I just wanted to show you guys a couple things in MyFitnessPal that I do that I think are a little bit different than what most people do. MyFitnessPal has a weight progress tracker thingy, and you have different settings for it that you can choose. Now, if you are on all, it will show you all of the weights that you have logged over the years. And I will say, since I came back to MyFitnessPal this time, these dates at the bottom of the all screen have been like this. I don't know what's wrong with them, so I don't really know how to help there, because if I knew how to help there, I could change it. You'll notice that back over here, and I believe my oldest date is 2010. Yes, October 23rd of 2010. I weighed 295 pounds, but there was only one date logged in 2010, and then I picked it up a year or two later. And you can see various timelines on here, like this big drop in the middle. I wasn't actually trying to lose weight. That was just after I had started at the casino. The first little section down to the little blip was the few months leading up to that, which is when I had gone gluten-free. And then after the blip in that downward trajectory was when body chemistry had gone completely haywire. It probably took 4 months before my body chemistry got terribly out of whack. And then by the 6-month mark, I think is when we started figuring it out. I think it actually went a little lower than this thing. But anyway, I was not in good shape during that down slide. And then I didn't really track at all in here until I was at my heaviest last summer. And the changes in little blips in this long upswing actually put in, basically, I was looking back at doctor records. And then last summer when I started eating more is when this down slide started. You can change this. I've since changed my starting weight, it's not starting weight, but starting date, because I was starting over again and I didn't like the fact that, I've got all this stuff and it was saying my starting weight was 295. So I felt like I had 60 pounds to lose before I could even get started. I didn't like that. So I changed my starting weight. And how you do that is you come down here to settings, and I think it's in my goals. You come in here and you click on this and you can change what your starting date is. So I just picked the date that I had the highest weight last summer and changed that. It will tell you your current weight. In here, you can change your goal weight. It'll reset any changes you've made to your macro allocation, your weekly goal. I had it set at lose 2 pounds per week for a while, but then I was only losing 1 pound per week. I really only want to lose 1 pound per week at this point, just because loose skin is a concern. And with the Ehlers-Danlos, my skin is not going to back bounce like the average person. Now, activity level. When I set this, are you sure this will recalculate your stuff? And I don't want to do that. But you can set different activity levels. And I set it at not very active because it does take off that's not going to do that. Okay, so it does take off, say, your exercise. So say I'm going to go shovel the driveway. And, let's just, for hypothetical sake here, say it takes me 30 minutes to do that. It'll probably take me longer because I didn't shovel it the last time it snowed and it's been snowing all night. But you see, calorie goal went up based on the exercise I logged. So if I put in I was very active, or that I work out 3 or 4 times a week, it's going to up the amount of calories I have. But then every time I go in and log exercise, it's going to add calories back in. Now, I completely ignore the exercise. So it will give you these totals. I just go off the base calorie goal rather than the remaining calories, because if I eat enough to cover the exercise calories, I don't really lose weight. I was definitely losing weight when I was set on
lose 2 pounds per week. I've been back and forth actually since I changed it to lose 1 pound per week. So actually, now that I think about that, because I am at a standstill, I am going to come in here and change that, because maybe that is what the difference was. Now, I don't actually... So, yes, I'm sure we're going to go back up to lose 2 pounds per week. It should put me back down at 1830. Yeah, see, it's got how much is remaining because I still have that snow shoveling in there. We're going to delete that for the time. Okay, it took me down to 1800, which is fine. Honestly, I struggle to get 1800 most days anyway. But I do a couple things that I don't think most people do in terms of how they use MyFitnessPal, aside from all of this, and it has to do with how they log food. So most people come in here, okay, I'm gonna have some milk and I'm gonna eat some pepper jack cheese for breakfast, and I don't know, maybe I'll have some hickory smoked ham. I won't, because I don't have any in the house. You know, easy enough. But like, it's individual things, and so I've, you know, just hypothetically, I've logged all of this stuff into my log for the day, right? And I can do that. I can log every little thing. I can weigh it and be super meticulous about it. And then, you know what happens? I quit logging because it's a pain in the butt. And the first time I wind up where I'm eating a mixed food, where I couldn't log each little thing. An example of this would be yesterday, finished some chicken fried rice. Now, chicken fried rice is actually one of those things that I need to come in here and fix, because basically I picked this particular chicken fried rice with muscle testing so I could log something, but I have a way that I make chicken fried rice. It is not Chinese takeout. In that event, you have two things you can do. You can create a recipe on the My Recipes tab. You can create a recipe, or you can discover recipes, and this takes you to their, like, thing. You know, do what you want. If you don't have a recipe, they have some good recipes, but a lot of them are not things that are, they're just, So what I do, I have certain things I typically cook, and typical ways that I eat them. So chicken fried rice. Now I do have this little convention where I change out and I will put how many servings it's supposed to feed. And this is one reason chicken fried rice has not been in here before. It's hard to calculate servings in a batch of chicken fried rice because we have a tendency to just eat it out of the pan. That sounds horrible. So I do a big batch, but we're going to call it 8 servings. And see where that gets us. Because I have ways to break it up. Chicken fried rice is something that I cook in a combination. It takes multiple pans for me to do this. I will cook the chicken in the Instant Pot. Okay? It will come out and get cubed or shredded. See, this is where it gets difficult. If I buy the bag of chicken from Aldi's, it will be boneless, skinless chicken breast. It'll be a 3-pound bag. But like right now, I'm working on some chicken I had bought on sale at the local grocery store we get water refills at. And those are actually just under 2 pounds a piece. So what we're going to do is type that out. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, what am I going to choose here? You get down here, it will start pulling up different brands like Meijer's. That's a local store brand we have. I'm going to go with something generic, and I'm going to pick something that has a little green check because that means they've verified it. But I'm going to hope that it will allow me to change the serving size to weight. Okay, it has 1 ounce. So I am going to change that. There's 16 ounces per pound, and I know that I typically will use at least 1.5 pounds. So I'm going to go, 16 plus 8 is 24 ounces. Save. Now, that looks like a lot of calories. It's really not a lot of calories. That is your main protein source in this dish. And remember, it's going to be divided up among 8 different things, 8 different servings. So anyway, we're going to hit this check mark and add the next ingredient. So how much rice do I normally put in? So for rice, I normally do white jasmine rice. So we're going to put that in. Now, how much do I cook. You have choices here. You can do cooked rice, you can do dry rice. I normally do about 3 cups dry, which will produce about 6 cups cooked. But remember, that's a lot more protein than I expected. That's kind of weird. Okay, so anyway, 3 cups of dry uncooked rice is going to be that, and it'll put about 6 cups of rice into our dish. And then as you go back to this review ingredients page, it will give you approximately how many calories per serving you've got. And your first thought's probably, holy cow, that's a lot of calories. But remember, this is going to be a 1-dish meal, and that might actually get reduced a little bit here. Okay, but up next, we are going to go for our veg. Okay, so what veg do I use? I use 1 bag of Asian medley from Aldi's. Why do I use that one? Well, I use that one because it has the baby corns in it and a few pea pods. Okay, so I normally do the Asian medley. Number of servings. It's not that. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 container. That's 1 bag. And I'm going to do 1 serving because I normally only put 1 of those in. Then I normally do a bag of broccoli. Now, like, if you're going to put this in here, you don't have to choose the same things that I do. You could use whatever you like to use. So maybe you do bamboo shoots and water chestnuts out of a can. Great, put that in there. I normally do 1 bag of broccoli. This last time I did broccoli stir fry. We don't mind it being super heavy in veg. So I normally have at least 2 bags of something in there. I don't know, it's not finding the broccoli stir fry, so we're just going to move on because I already put the broccoli in there. So after that, we've got our 2 bags of veg, and we're up to 418 calories per serving. Up next, I typically do eggs, and I could really take it or leave it on the eggs, honestly. But my kids really like that part of fried rice for some reason. So we do an egg, and my typical thing is 1 egg per person, sometimes +1. Does anybody else do that? Like, if we're making French toast, how much do I use? 2 eggs per person +1. If we're doing an omelet, how many do I use? 2 eggs per person +1, or 3 eggs per person +1, just depending on how hungry we are and whatnot. Anyway, it was 2 of us here this time, but there are normally 3 of us here, so we're going to put in 3 eggs. So because we are normally 3 of us here when I make this, because we all really like it, I'm going to put 3 eggs in here. So you can see that's about 215 and 18.6 grams of protein, which this whole stacking of protein is why this winds up being a high protein dish. And yes, there's about 6 cups of cooked rice in here, but there's also a lot of meat in there. It doesn't come out like the fried rice you would expect from, say, a Chinese restaurant. It just doesn't. Now, seasonings. What do I season with? Garlic. Typically, I use the jarred garlic because it's easy. It's supposedly minced. The one that I've got right now is more like pureed. It's fine. It's really strong, but it tastes good. I happen to know that my jar says 5 calories per teaspoon. So that's the one I'm going to go with rather than the one that is checked, because the one that's checked was a lower calorie. Now, when I make this, cook the chicken, cook the rice, and I don't season them at that point. I will typically go back in and season them in the cast iron skillet after the fact. And to do that, I will generally use about a teaspoon per pan of garlic. And I normally do 1 pan for the rice, 1 pan for the meat, and 1 pan for the veg. And then I don't season the eggs. So I'm going to come in here. That was meat, rice, veg, 3 teaspoons. Add that in. I also put ginger in. It kind of comes in a paste form. So we're just going to kind of pick, because I don't know what it says. It's not in oil or anything. The garlic's in oil, so that definitely affects more. So we're going to the ginger garlic paste probably has some oil in it. That's why it has more calories. So we're going to go with this. This says 1 tablespoon per serving. There are 3 teaspoons per tablespoon. So that should stay the same, and it did. I don't know why it matters, It was just automatically on that. I could have left it, put that in. And then I also use unfermented liquid aminos. Okay, so I happen to know that my bottle that I buy is 5 calories per teaspoon. I know that because I've looked multiple times. I don't think it's actually going to have a designator of unfermented. They do have both, so if that makes a difference to you, definitely make sure you're buying the right thing. But in terms of tracking this, I don't think it really matters. It's not tracking your histamine levels, you know? Now, how much do I probably put in? A tablespoon or 2 per pan. So we're going to go with about 6 tablespoons. I'm guessing that there's that much protein because it is soy. I don't know. But that covers what I use in my dish. So we can come up here. It's 463 calories per serving for a serving size of 8. I'm going to muscle test that, but I think that's probably about right. 463 calories per serving. So we're going to just leave it at that. Now, what I'll do in the future, since I've got this entered into MyFitnessPal, I will actually go through and when I make it, instead of leaving it in a big pot, because typically, I cook the stuff, I move the chicken to the pan, I season it, and then it goes into a mixer bowl. I cook the rice. Typically, I'm cooking the veg while the rice is cooking, and it goes into the mixer bowl. The rice gets done. Honestly, this time, and it worked out just great, I just added the stuff in on top of it and mixed it up, and then I dumped the other stuff in on top of it and mixed it up while I was cooking the eggs. But as you can see, this recipe, you've got your calories. It's about 37 grams of protein per serving. I know that I'm calculating it at 8 servings. I will actually put it in food storage containers for measurement. So say we'll eat about half a food storage container. I'll put it in 4. That way, okay, I'm going to eat half a food storage container and it'll be about right. Is it going to be perfect? No. But you know what? It's easy. And it'll have a better accuracy than some random fried rice that's Chinese. Is there another kind of fried rice? I don't know. But you know, if you type in fried rice, that could be literally leftover rice with soy sauce on it and maybe a bag of mixed veg and an egg and, a cup of chicken. There's no telling what the takeout version of fried rice is because we don't really have that information from the restaurants. And it probably varies food service to food service. So basing it on how do I normally make this is going to be more accurate than just this random chicken fried rice that I used. And then I can always measure out the cups and change it that way, So that's how I add a recipe. And then there's one other thing that I do. Sure. Let's do this for breakfast today. And that's my meal. So what does my meal look like? These are groups of foods that you often use together. So for instance, beef burger on bread, okay? Or I normally buy split top wheat bread. And how I came to this conclusion, I made burgers, quite often for a couple of weeks. So I was measuring this stuff. How much do I use? Okay, well, it works out to about half a tablespoon. I was actually measuring this in grams, so obviously I saved the wrong meal. But anyway, the calories was about the same as I recall. This is their frozen burgers that I can cook from frozen. The dill pickle spears, they're not in spears, but the medallions, that's honestly, my pickle jar says 0 calories for a whole pickle. I don't know. And MyFitnessPal requires a calorie count of some sort, so. But I know that I use a tablespoon between the 2 slices of bread. I have a certain way that I make these things every time that I make them. Am I going to be a little off from time to time on how much onion did I put in? Did I put in 1 full slice? Did I put in half a slice? Will I be a little off there? Yes. Do you know how many calories that's going to equate to? 1 or 2. Like in all the times that I weighed out my onion for a sandwich, and honestly, if you're weighing your food, I would put the plate, okay, log the bread, put the bread on the plate, 0 it out. Okay, put the mayo on the bread. How many grams is that? How many calories are in those gram weights or whatever. Log that. How much pickle am I putting on? Log that. Log the burger. Put the burger on. Zero it out. Like every time I'm zeroing it out and I'm just building my burger on top of the scales. And I did this like every few days for probably about a month. And I was just logging it over and over again. And they were always about the same. So I don't know what 577 calories. I can tell you that when I was logging it, they were usually coming out to 538 within 5 or 10 calories. Am I going to complain? No, because theoretically, I'm overestimating the calories, so I feel pretty safe in that. Does that help if I'm under eating? Not so much. So we'll see. If I get better at logging food and it's not getting better with the weight loss, I'll go in and fix some of these to make sure they're definitely right. But I don't think that'll be a problem. This is what I did for the meal. But how do you get a meal added like that? Basically, what you do, you come over here and say we're going to do a tuna salad. I have tuna salad in my recipes, but just for sanity's sake, for something to show you. Okay, so canned tuna. Do I care what kind of canned tuna? No, not really. I just want something with about the right amount of calories. Our cans of tuna, for whatever reason, vary between 140 and 150 for calories per can. And when we make tuna salad, typically it is 5 cans per recipe, and there's 3 of us. So I know that I eat about 1¼ cans, let's say. This is probably not accurate, but we're just to show you what I do. So we're going to go there. We're going to add pickle because we cut up I don't know, it depends on who makes it as to how much pickle's in it, honestly. All right, so 1 spear of pickle. And then mayo. We do use real mayo for, let's see here, what would that be? It's probably about ½ a cup for 5. So that would be, there's 3 tablespoons per ¼ cup. So that would be 6 tablespoons. So in all reality, that probably is about 1 tablespoon. I'm going to move this down here. It probably is about 1 tablespoon per serving. That's probably not the best option for how I do this. Okay. So you see I've got lunch and it's saying pickles are really low calorie, but they're really high sodium. Just FYI. So anyway, then we're going to hit this 3 dots. Now you can copy the meal and it'll give you options of when to copy it to. But if you find yourself copying a meal a lot, you can just save meal and you can take a picture. You can add a name, choose who to share it with, choose what's in it. Now, here's the caveat. Do not change the one that you save. If you go back in and add something else to that meal, it's going to add it to this meal. So say I went back and added some bread and had a sandwich, it's going to add the bread to the meal. So you don't want to do that. Add the extra stuff you wound up eating on snacks or whatever, or just choose a day that you just ate straight tuna salad. Since I have this in a recipe and that's probably more accurate because I was weighing stuff and measuring and whatnot, I'm not going to save this. But I wanted to show you guys that because I don't see people talking about saving meals, copying meals. You can. One thing I guess I should say you can do. You go to those 3 dots, you can copy a meal till tomorrow. And maybe this is good. Say you do, I don't know, maybe you do the same 3 eggs and bacon for every breakfast. You can just kind of carry it one day to the next and it copies. And so in that realm, you can plan your meals pretty well. Now, I'm going to have to go in here and delete all these, but I don't normally see people saving meals. Now, copied this to tomorrow, but say I'm still measuring this meal, so instead of 1 tablespoon, I'm going to try 1 teaspoon and see what that does. Since I'm not saving this meal from this meal, I can change this and it's not going to change in the saved, but it'll change the calories for that day. And that one's still at 1 tablespoon. So that way you can kind of play with the protein. That's what I've done with the hot chocolate. I still need to get you guys the hot chocolate recipes. That's how I found out. Because this is no longer correct because I changed that day. So I did wind up putting it in the hot chocolate and that's where I'm at. This is the one that I make all the time now. So hopefully I'll get that recipe out for you guys soon. But for now, I'm going to get this edited and hopefully it helps you guys with your MyFitnessPal a little bit. And then since I realized that I'm having issues with my meal planning, just a heads up, I'm going to make that a regular thing until I get better at it. Because I realized when I was editing last week, I didn't pay any attention to how much protein per meal. I didn't pay attention to how many calories. I didn't pay attention to budget. Obviously, MyFitnessPal doesn't care about budget, but I'm working on a spreadsheet meal planner that I can calculate cost. And I don't know about you, but with eggs almost $1 an egg, they're definitely over 50 cents an egg for the ones that I would buy. My local store, if I wasn't going to get them at Aldi's, my local store is $10 a dozen. That's crazy. So anyway, those are some things I want to work on with meal planning. And how do I figure out how much protein's in something? I come to MyFitnessPal. And so I'm going to go through and try and make sure I've got all of the different things that I make regularly in my recipes or in my meals. That way I can go through and make sure I'm going to get enough protein throughout the day to hit my protein goals, because that I think is a very high contributor as to why I am not losing weight consistently, because I've been struggling to get past 70 grams of protein lately. So I'm back on this. I really need to be pushing the protein. I feel better. I'm doing better on my weight loss goals. I don't like the word goals. On my weight loss, I'm more consistent on what the scale says and feeling like I'm making progress when I'm hitting at least 100 grams of protein a day. But the only way I know that is if I'm logging things, and the only way I'm logging things is if it's easy. So the way I do that is my recipes and my meals, and I hope this has helped you guys out. I will talk to you next week, maybe before with that hot chocolate recipe.